I took the Hollow Veil contract because the pay was good and the work was simple. Strip the ruin colony for salvageable resin, catalog what the company could sell, stay out of the overseer's business. 26 years wrenching engines on 3 different worlds teaches you that. Stay out of it. The ruins were old, older than anybody's records. Terraced structures grown over with glass-winged vine that caught the morning sun and threw it back gold. Hollow Veil ran its labor gangs under that light, out in the open, because the company that held the contract didn't believe in hiding what it did. The workers wore collar plates fused at the throat, a hard, dark, chitinous band, grown into the skin over years until you couldn't tell anymore where the plate ended and the person began. Caste-marked, unranked, no names on the manifest, only numbers. I noticed her on the second day, not because she was different to look at, though she was. Copper-bronze skin gone dull with dust, black hair cropped short and rough by somebody else's hand, storm-gray eyes that didn't drop when the guards walked past. It was how she carried the plate. Everyone else wore theirs like a wound. She wore hers like she was still deciding whether to forgive it. She worked the resin line without the flinching the other laborers had learned around the guards, and when a basket strap tore under a younger worker's grip and spilled harvest across the terrace stone, it was her who knelt first, calm, unhurried, and reset the load before the whistle could sound and bring trouble down on the boy who'd dropped it. Nobody thanked her for it. She didn't look like she expected anyone to. I'd spent enough years around men and machines both breaking under strain to know the difference between somebody who was beaten and somebody who was simply waiting. She was waiting. I didn't know yet for what, and I didn't ask, because a man who asks too many questions on a labor contract usually finds himself reassigned somewhere worse. "That one give you trouble?" I asked the overseer, a heavy-set man named Dre, who ran the gang shifts like he owned the sun. "That one doesn't talk," Dre said. "Doesn't need to. Number 411, strong back, keeps her head down. That's all you need to know about labor." I didn't say anything. I'd learned that much too. But I started leaving water where she worked, an extra ration tucked where the guards wouldn't notice. I started saying good morning, even when she didn't answer. Habit, maybe. Or maybe some part of me already knew what I was looking at and hadn't caught up to it yet. It was 11 days before she spoke to me. I was cutting rusted brackets off a support strut, and she was hauling resin baskets past, and she stopped, just for a second, just long enough to say, "You waste water on labor." "I waste water on people," I said. Didn't realize there was a difference. She looked at me a long moment, like she was recalibrating something. "There's a difference," she said. The company made sure of it. And she walked on before Dre's shift whistle caught the pause. After that, she talked more, in scraps, when the guards weren't close. I learned her gang called her Neris, quietly, when nobody official was listening. I learned the collar plate wasn't decoration. It was a caste seal, fused during a tribunal, meant to erase whatever rank a person held before. Once fused, the law said, it could not be undone. That was the whole design of it. Not punishment, erasure. "They didn't want me dead," she told me once, staring at the resin baskets rather than at me, the way people talk about the worst thing that ever happened to them. Dead makes a martyr. A court remembers a martyr. They wanted me gone the way a name goes out of a ledger, still breathing, still here, and worth nothing to anyone who might have once knelt to it. "That's a cruelty with real thought behind it," I said. "The Senadar court has always been thoughtful about its cruelty," she said, and there was no bitterness in it, only the flat exhaustion of someone who had cataloged the fact long ago and set it aside to survive the rest. I learned, 3 days after that, reading an old regional bulletin the company had left in a supply crate, a bounty notice, faded, offering confirmation reward for proof of death regarding one Senadar bloodline, last Empress of that court, presumed lost in a coup 6 years back. There was a rendering, not a good one, but I'd been looking at her face for 2 weeks by then. I didn't say anything to her that day either. I went back to my crate of tools, and I looked at the collar plate, the way I'd look at any fused joint that somebody had told me couldn't be separated. 26 years of engines teaches you one more thing. Nothing fuses without a seam. Somebody just doesn't want you finding it. I found hers in 4 nights of careful, quiet work after shift. Not touching her, not yet. Just studying the plate from a distance with a scanner I wasn't supposed to have clearance for. There was a hairline seam at the underside, where the cast smiths had rushed the bonding to make the tribunal's deadline. Rushed work always leaves a seam. I told her what I'd found on the 5th night, crouched by the water tank, where the guard rotation left a gap. It's not permanent, I said. It was never permanent. They just needed everyone to believe it was. She went very still. If you're wrong, they kill us both for the attempt. I've been wrong about engines before, I said. Never about a seam. She didn't answer for a long time. Then she said, low, like it cost her something to say it. Why would you risk it? For labor. You're not labor, I said. I don't think you ever were. I think you're an empress. Somebody tried to erase. And I think erasing a person isn't as easy as a tribunal wants it to be. I think that's why you still stand like one. Her eyes were wet, but she didn't cry. Wary defiance, cautious trust, both at once, warring behind storm gray. You don't know what you're offering. I know exactly what I'm offering, I said. A cut wire and an open gate. The rest is yours to carry. We did it at dawn, because dawn was when the shift guards were thinnest, and the light through the glass vine canopy was strongest. I wanted to see the seam clearly, and some part of me, some old stubborn part, wanted her to come back into her own name in daylight, not shadow. My hands didn't shake. 26 years, and they didn't shake. I found the hairline seam under the plate's edge, and worked the cutter in slow, patient degrees, the way you'd free a bolt that had seized wrong, rather than force it, and shatter the whole assembly. She held still and didn't make a sound, though I felt her pulse jump once, hard, under my fingers when the plate gave. It came away in one piece. Underneath, her throat was unmarked, whole, copper-bronze skin catching the gold morning light like it had been waiting 6 years to do it. Dre's shift whistle sounded before I'd even set the plate down. 2 guards came around the terrace at a jog, weapons up, shouting about contraband tools and Gang 411. I stood between them and her, which wasn't smart, and wasn't a plan, and was the only thing I had. This is Neris, Quell Senadar, I said, and I said it plain, the way you'd read a manifest, not a declaration. Empress of the Senadar court. You've been holding her under a caste seal that was never legal, on a bounty that pays out for her death, not her labor. That's not a contract violation you want written up. That's a court crime with your names on it. The guards looked at each other, looked at her, unmarked now, spine straight, storm gray eyes steady on them without a flicker of the fear that should have been there. Looked at me, an aging contract mechanic with a cutter still warm in his hand, standing like the fact of what I'd said was already settled law. Neither of them raised a weapon. Neither of them, in the end, had a protocol for a caste-erased laborer who had simply stopped being erased. The gate wasn't locked from that side. It never had needed to be. Nobody marked ever tried to leave. Neris walked to it herself, slow, like she was relearning the length of her own stride, and I walked beside her, and the guards let the silence do what orders couldn't. At the threshold, she stopped and looked back once at the terraces, the vine glass throwing its gold light over 6 years of her life spent as a number. Then she looked at me. You knew my name before I gave it, she said. Before the bulletin confirmed it. How? You didn't carry yourself like labor, I said. You carried yourself like someone waiting for the world to remember what she already knew about herself. She didn't smile. Not exactly. But something in her face came unfused, the way the plate had, quiet and complete. There will be a court that doesn't want me back, she said. Advisors who signed the tribunal order, a bloodline they've already redistributed. Then we'll walk into that too, I said, one seam at a time. I've never met a fusion yet that didn't have one, if a man's patient enough to look. Then let's go remember it somewhere they can't take it back, she said, and stepped through the gate into full morning light, and I went with her, and neither of us looked behind us again.